and welcome to the Ended Up in Vegas podcast. I'm Nikki.
I'm Megan.
Today we have a really special guest with us who is a breathwork coach. She's also an energy healer and she teaches yoga. Can't wait to ask you all the questions. Kristin Royseland, welcome to the podcast.
Hi, thanks so much for having me.
Tell us how you ended up in Vegas.
So my family moved here in 1996, right into Green Valley Ranch, which was nothing. And we had moved around a lot before that. So we ended up here. I left. I kept leaving. I left to go to college in Virginia. I came back. I met my husband. I left and moved to Norway for 4 years and was like, I probably will never come back. Came back and we've been back for 10 years now. So it's been a circular journey coming back and leaving, and now I'm here.
Yeah, and you guys have kids. How many kids do you have?
We have 1 million kids. At least that's what it feels like. It's 4, and they're 11 is my oldest. My youngest is 4, so it's really, our days are very full.
Boys, girls?
3 girls, and then a boy.
Oh,
which when we found out we were having a boy, I thought, I just didn't think that was possible because we were in this girl world, and it's been really different having a little boy. So they're a lot of fun.
Well, we have so many questions for you today. So let's just start with with the kind of work you do. Tell us about it.
Okay, so energy healing it's basically, we all are made up of energy, right? So I see clients one-on-one and help them move and shift energy that gets stuck in your body. So when we don't process things like emotions, grief, anything, most all of us are like walking around with unprocessed emotions because, we're trying to keep it together throughout our days. And then we go through hard things and have to keep moving through life. So people come to see me and I help to move that energy from their body. Most people know Reiki. That's like the most common type of energy work. I work a little different. I'm certified in that, but mine is a little more touch and I talk to you the whole time, which is really different than traditional Reiki. And then breath work goes along with it. So breath is the easiest way to shift energy in the body. And it's also our connection to our soul. So I do a lot of group work with breath work where I get people together and everyone just breathes together and moves energy in that way. It's a lot of fun. And then I teach yoga, which is also, everybody knows what that is.
Yeah.
But
So what's your history been like? How did you get into this? Like, was this a calling that you felt, or like, is this something that you've just been taught or felt like you had natural abilities to do from the beginning?
So I would say that I kind of fell into it. My husband jokes when I'm like, I'm so surprised I ended up here. And he's like, the first time I went to your house, I looked on your bookshelf and it was all like energy, astrology, and this. I'm like, really? Was that what I was into at that point? But a few years ago, probably 5-6 years ago, I met my business partner, Brooke, and she is the one who kind of helped guide me on this path. I've always had certain abilities, I can feel what people are feeling. I would know certain things were going to happen, just kind of in touch with different things, but I never thought about it as a career until she kind of introduced it to me and took me down this path, and now it's just turned into my whole life, and it's so much fun.
So tell us about some of the principles that you teach. Obviously, 3 categories here. So let's start with you touched on energy a little bit. Tell us about some of the techniques and fundamentals of breath work.
Yeah. So I teach a few different types of breath work. Breath work is something that we all have access to. Right now we're breathing. Everyone's breathing. And whether you're driving in your car, you're in a crowd of people, or you're by yourself laying on the floor, you can access your breath.
Yeah.
So I like to teach things that are accessible when you're, sitting in a crowd and you need to calm your nervous system down. And then I teach things that are going to kind of rock your world and can sometimes produce visions and clarity and really big emotional releases. So I go between the two. And in different programs that I do, I teach breathwork techniques that you can use on a daily basis. So one of my favorites, let's do one right now. Are you guys into it?
Yeah.
All right. So we're going to do a double inhale, single exhale. This is one of the easiest way to shift your nervous system. So if you're feeling overwhelmed or you're just going in to meet with somebody, you want to be clear, you can do this, and you can do it in your car, walking around. No one will even notice that you're doing it really. So you're going to take 2 inhales through the nose,
Okay.
and then a sigh exhale out of the mouth. So it's going to look and sound like this. You're going to go.
Okay.
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 Let's do 3 rounds.
Okay.
You guys ready?
Yeah.
Okay, so exhale everything out. Inhale through the nose. Second one, and sigh. Again, in, out, in, out. And then you can just notice how your body automatically, like your shoulders come down, you feel a little smoother, a little lighter. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah. I used to, when I was younger, I heard, I think Oprah said it, how she calms herself down before she gives a speech. And it's by like holding her breath by like 10-second hold and then doing a slow 10-second exhale, which that's what I've always done in the past when I'm like super nervous and really need to like calm my heart rate down.
Yes.
If my heart is racing. So what did you like, where did you start? Like, did you start teaching yoga?
So yeah, I would say yoga was kind of my gateway.
Yeah.
I've done yoga since I was 18, and I always knew I wanted to teach it, but I don't know, just never found the time to go through teacher training. And so I decided to do it when I was pregnant with my 4th baby. Because logically, I'm like, well, I guess there's no time like the present, because obviously I've never found the time before.
Right.
And that really like started me on this path. It opened me up to a lot of different things. The yoga teacher training I did wasn't less about the physical and more about like the emotional, and kind of like everybody's experience is different and letting people not be in a box. So once I did that, I was doing breath and doing movement, but it was actually a business retreat that I learned the type of breath work that I teach most of the time.
Interesting.
Yeah. So I followed this woman. Her name is Kathy Heller. She has a podcast. And it was when she was first starting, and she hosted a retreat, and it was like, I don't know, pre-COVID, but not that far away from when we shut everything down. So I'm super grateful that I went for it. And, we're talking about business, we're talking about entrepreneurship. And then she's like, okay, and then this woman's coming and you're going to breathe. And I was like, cool, I got this. I'm a yoga teacher, no problem.
Sure.
So she's like, okay, you're going to lay down and you're going to breathe in and out through your mouth. And I was like, what?
Why?
Yeah. I'm like, that sounds terrible. I'm like, I just figured out how to nose breathe properly. I also was a backwards breather my whole life. So like, as I would inhale, I would like suck my stomach in. So it was like a whole learning curve. And I'm like, I have this, and now you're going to change everything.
Yeah.
But we did this 20-minute breath work, a bunch of women in this woman's like living room, and everyone's crying. And I'm like, what just happened? So I went up right after, which is not really, it's character for me now, but at the time I was a little more subdued, and I was like, hey, what is this? I need to know, and I need to learn how to do this, because I was just kind of getting started with doing group work and meditation circles, and kind of like branching out of just teaching yoga. And she's like, oh yeah, you got to go study with this guy, David Elliott. And I was like, okay. So I went. I had no idea he's like this big breathwork guru, and his classes like fill up super fast. And I went to sign up, and there was a spot, and it all just worked out. And so I brought that back. But yeah, it was a business retreat that brought it there for me. And then from then, I just have become so passionate. I've taken a bunch of different courses and learned different techniques, and just bring it into my business now.
Yeah. And I subscribe to all of this. I do yoga. I subscribe to the breath work like practices, and I'm open to all of those things. But I know that there are people out there who have yet to really understand. I think, even in the movie Air, there's a part, have you seen this movie?
No.
It's so funny because Ben Affleck plays Phil Knight. From Nike.
Okay.
And he's like, there's a part in the movie, and it's the 80s, right? So he's like, we're going to just take one breath in and one breath out, and we're just going to observe that we're breathing, and like back then it was,
like,
it was so weird, right? Because it was like, it's been considered woo woo in the past. So like to cynics and non-believers, or just people who have yet to really learn about it, how have these things been studied? Like, what proof in the pudding is there?
Oh, yeah. Okay. So this part of why I love breathwork is there's so much science that's coming behind it. I mean, yogis have practiced breath and pranayama forever.
Yeah.
And now it's like the science is coming out, and people send me articles all the time, and I'm like, thank you. I know, but I love getting the science because I am kind of a science nerd as well. So that breath that we did earlier, the double inhale, single exhale, that is actually proven it's a Harvard study, proven to calm you faster than 15 minutes of meditation. Wow. So, we know a lot of the benefits of meditation now. And now I think breathwork is just kind of catching up. The science is coming. And yeah, it's known for calming your nervous system. It's known for soothing things. And now with like a holotropic breathwork, which is the type that's the 3-part in and out through your mouth that I thought was crazy. There's more and more research on that, of how it actually changes like the cellular makeup of the body.
I heard something, I was listening to a Huberman Labs podcast, and he was talking about that and how you can, how breathing can be a response to trauma and different types of breathing. And I think it's fascinating.
Yeah, I've been a breath holder my whole life. So actually the way that I learned about Kristin was through my friend and client Monway. I think I was telling her about breath work, and she was like, oh, my neighbor teaches that. And then we started following each other, and that's how we came to know each other. So tell me a little bit about energy healing. We talked about this before we sat down, but this is also something that's very,
little woo woo.
Yeah. I mean, but we love it, right? Like these are things that we feel that we can't see, but are real.
Yeah. I mean, here's the thing, right? Like, we live in this world where we can see things, we can touch things, but there's so much more out there.
Yeah.
And you think about, I don't know. I always like to think of animals. Animals see the world different than we do. They see colors different. Even us, like the three of us could look at one color and see something totally different. So I'm like, that to me right away is proof that, hey, there's no way we know everything.
Yeah.
So a lot of energy, the way that I feel things is through touch. Like, I can talk to you and kind of tune into your energy. We have this energy field that goes beyond our bodies, and this is also science. Science knows this now, right? And I can tune in and kind of feel what's happening within your body. Now, I'm not doing that all the time with people. I'm not like walking around like, I feel yours and I feel yours, because I would be exhausted at the end of the day. And honestly, before I started working with this, I would feel exhausted a lot, because I didn't know how to kind of protect the difference, but now I do. And so, yeah, so when you're touching somebody, or when you walk into a room, this is my favorite example. So everyone's done this. You walk into a room and you're like, oh,
yeah,
it feels weird in here. Or somebody walks up behind you, they don't say anything, they're quiet, and you're like, oh, someone's behind me.
Right.
You can feel it before you're feeling their energy.
Yeah.
So that's a lot of it. And then just kind of slowing down your own thought, just to feel what's happening and let things come through. I know that sounds super woo woo, but we are all intuitive. Yeah. And taking the time to just, like, meditation and breath work, you clear out the chatter of your mind, and then you'll get like clarity, right? Like, have you ever done that where you're just sitting thinking about nothing? You're like, oh, I should do this. Maybe it's like, oh, I should have a podcast.
Yeah. And then, a lot how it went.
Right. You clear out some of that chatter, you shift energy that's stuck, so you're out of your thinking brain, and then you get to just really find more clarity in life.
Well, I think that's where a lot of people find their spirituality in yoga, is because that's a yoga principle, is observing your thoughts, especially when you're in discomfort, when you're on your mat and you're sweating, if it's hot yoga, or you're in pain, it's real hard, all the muscles are activated and you just have nowhere else to go but through. Yeah. And then you're like, oh, I'm here now and I see all these other things and feel all these other things, and where did that come from? And really the challenge is just to watch those pass by and allow them to, just be there as thoughts that maybe aren't yours, that you're just having. Yeah. Right? So something that Kristin posted the other day on Instagram, I like to challenge, that's my personality. So I don't know if you saw my comment.
I actually saw it this morning. I was really laughing.
She has a whole table of emotions and how we process our emotions and how we should feel our emotions versus observe them. And I was like, no, observing is way more comforting. Like, let's keep doing that. Like, I don't really want to be in my feels. So tell us about some of the other things that you teach along those lines.
Yeah. So I like to teach people to feel because I think when you start on a spiritual journey, okay, so you start bringing more awareness, maybe you're taking yoga and you're like, whoa, I moved through this discomfort. I feel better after. Cool. And then you're like, wow, things come up a lot when I'm uncomfortable and I notice these thoughts are false. And then you start going like, I know these things. So you start kind of intellectualizing everything.
Yeah.
You're like, let's find the science and think about it. Oh, I'm sad today because I know when I was a kid, this happened. And so that's why I'm sad when I'm having this interaction.
Yeah.
But you actually have to feel it.
No, it's way safer just to observe it, Kristin.
It really, it is. I'm not going to lie. I was there too. That's why I like to teach a lot of these things because I definitely was like, I can figure it out and I don't need to feel it. Like, I know that I'm triggered and I would like to just stay triggered and not actually move through the feelings. I might know why. But when we let ourselves like laugh and even cry and be joyful, we actually fully experience things. And instead of just sitting and be like, this is a happy moment.
Yeah.
Like,
but I think that that's where you start to practice it, right? It's just like a yoga practice where you're like, you don't know how to do it at first, but the more you practice it, like, I think people have actually said like, what do you mean a practice?
Yeah.
Like it's a practice. Like when you're out of practice, you're not doing it as well. When you're in it, you can go deeper. You can go deeper into the postures, like figure more things out mentally. Like it's a whole mental thing that's outside of just a physical exercise. And so I think like when the practice, the first step is when you observe what you typically do.
Yep.
And you're able to identify it and be like, oh, I'm doing that one thing again. How like do I turn that around into like, okay, I'm observing it. How do I feel it?
Yeah, exactly. You're like, okay, I have this awareness and now I have to feel it. And I think a lot of clients who come to me, they come so that they can feel it because we don't know how. Like we're not taught how to feel our emotions. Right. We're actually taught to like, hey, don't cry. You're in school right now. Shh, be quiet. Or like, this isn't an appropriate time. So most of us as adults, we don't actually know how to do it. And it sounds like silly, like, well, I cry if I'm sad. But many of us, when we have like something big happen, you're like, oh, I know I should be sad. I know I am sad, but I can't actually get it out because we've spent so much time trying to like cover up and not feel. Yeah. I mean, right?
Or I think some people just like have a default emotion. So if they're sad, they're angry. If they're excited, angry. Like, I mean, have you known people like that before?
And I think a lot of people think if they can intellectualize their feelings, then they don't have to feel them.
100%.
So if I can just make sense of all of this, then I can just skip over the feeling it part. Like, and I think I feel like I'm a little bit of the opposite. Like I really like lean into my feelings.
Beautiful.
We need not always in the best. It's not always the best,
but we need people like you because, we need people who show the opposite sides, right? Like that's probably why you guys are a good partnership. If somebody is a big feeler and somebody is like a little more intellectual, you can meet each other in the middle and then see, take from each other those parts.
Well, I wonder, and not to totally deviate, but like, have you ever done like a Myers-Briggs?
Yeah.
Are you a thinker or a feeler?
I think I'm a thinker. I feel like I feel like it's been a while since I took one of the tests, but yeah.
Yeah, I'm a feeler. So I wonder if that, anyway, so totally.
Well, and my daughter too, like her default is to cry. She's a great crier.
Yeah.
Like any kind of pain or discomfort, like.
She an angry crier?
No. Oh, she's a sad crier.
Sad.
It's sad.
My oldest daughter is such a crier. And I remember I would like tease my mom when she would be crying as a kid. And I'd be like, why are you crying at this movie? Yeah. And my daughter's like bawling over there. I'm like, oh my gosh. But it's really helped me. Like, I do feel like that was a gift for me that I'm like, oh, it's okay to cry. Like nothing's wrong with her. And she cries and she's totally over it 2 seconds later.
But that's the difference is like, I think we have a different starting point from like all of our personalities being different from the start. And then we have, gleaned specific things like your one daughter is not the same as the other daughter might, so it just never works out to be the same person to person.
No, for sure.
Yeah. So like, how do you teach your kids the elements of like when you see what's happening between them, like, and the dynamics too of how they can get along and.
Oh gosh. Children. Mine are all so different. I am so grateful to have the practices that I do. So a lot of what I'm teaching is teaching people to like feel in their bodies, right? So like, okay, you're angry. Now we need to do something with it, because I have one daughter who will just be like, I am furious. That's my youngest daughter. And she's like, I'm furious. And I'm like, okay. But like now you need to put that somewhere, because otherwise you're just yelling and furious. So we do a lot of yelling in pillows in my house.
Okay.
And then we do like we'll yell in the car together if you know, you have that moment where it's like, we got to get out of the house, and everyone get in the car, and you get in and everyone's tense. I'm like, okay, let's just all yell on the count of 3.
Yeah.
And then it's totally lighter. It changes the mood. So I encourage everyone, if you're listening to this, yell in your car as often as possible.
Yeah.
And then we do things like, we'll have dance parties if I feel like I need the energy to shift.
Yeah.
So like everyone's fighting together. Like, let's have a dance party that activates different chakras and brings in a lot of joy. And I teach my kids a lot of the stuff I teach my clients, because I'm like, I'm teaching adults. I would like for you guys to be able to have this in your life now. Like my kids will do deep breaths. We do a lot of shaking.
Okay.
Shaking out energy and emotions. Like if they're like, oh, this person was mean to me today. I'm like, okay, well, let's get rid of that energy, because when you interact with somebody, you're picking up on it. Or even if they're fighting with each other, and we'll just shake it out.
Yeah.
Let it go.
That's awesome. I think it's really the best gift we can give our children is healthy ways to cope with how they're how to communicate their feelings, how to understand their feelings, and how to interact with other people. I just think like that's the most important thing.
Yeah. I ask them a lot too, like, where do you feel this in your body? Because that's something that I think we forget. Like we have our mind, we have our emotions, and then you have your body. So if you're sad, I'm like, where are you feeling that? Like, where does it like hurt? Or even, you know, when you're happy, where do you feel this joy? Where are you feeling like light? And I always try to pull in the two, because you're always having both. Like find somewhere that feels heavy, find somewhere that feels light, and breathe them together, and then you feel a little more balanced.
Yeah.
Do you see them doing that on their own?
Yeah, especially my older ones. I mean, my oldest is a feeler anyway, so she's like, I'm going to go journal, and I'm going to write this down. And she's like, I just need a minute to myself, and she'll like go in and breathe. My second daughter, she needs the practices the most. So she'll ask me to do certain like energy techniques on her. She's like, will you come and tap my knees? Because that makes her feel more grounded. So they'll ask for different things.
That's
and
awesome.
Then my youngest, he meditates all the time. He's
Really?
so funny. Yeah, he's like, I'm meditating. And he'll sit there. He's 4. Sit there with his like fingers together and eyes closed. I'm like, great buddy.
Yeah. What are some of the meditation methods? Because I think often people, there's a misconception that meditation is, you know, quiet in a room by yourself, long period of time sitting, and some people just can't do that. Totally. And so I have I've been telling people just like you for years, you can do it another way.
I walk. Yeah.
You walk, yeah. So tell us, like, what are we allowed to do in the meditation
You
process?
are allowed to do anything.
Yes,
Okay. I would like to get rid of rules
Thank you.
for people.
Yes.
So let go of the rules, let go of
Yes.
anything you feel like it has to be a certain way. I think for a long time, I felt like I couldn't meditate because I was like, well, my thoughts are always there.
Yeah.
I just want everyone to know you are going to think.
Okay.
That's your brain's job. You're never going to sit down. I mean, maybe at some point you'll have this like very quiet sit, but that's like 10 years down the road.
Sure.
Okay. So you can do a walking meditation. You can do a senses meditation. Like think about, okay, what do I see? What do I feel? You know, go through all your senses. I love meditation with like petting a dog.
Okay.
Or like hugging your kids.
Oh.
Those are all ways that meditation is just basically like letting everything fall away.
Yeah.
And just being present. So
yeah, I think for me, so I did meditation with music, and it really came to me where I was like about to lose it. And I was like, what do I need? Like I asked my body, what do I need right now? And it came to me like, I just need something, like I need a tune. I need something, some type of music. So I would like literally start meditation music in the morning when I was getting ready, like blare it. And if I didn't like, it was always hertz, like a frequency of something, or the solfeggio frequencies. So if I didn't like it, I would change it to the next song. Or if there was too many, you know, like if I just wasn't feeling it that day, I just went with what felt good. And I feel like it rewired my brain during that time in my life.
It probably did.
Oh, yeah. And you also gave yourself permission that it is okay if it didn't work.
Right.
Like, okay, let's change it. Let's find what feels good. I love that you like asked your body what you needed.
Yeah.
And yeah, like shifted it, because I think that's where people get stuck. It's like, it has to be a certain way. And if it doesn't work the first time, it's done.
How do you put it to people? Like, I mean, that's my narrative, is just to ask myself what I need. But what do you say to your clients when they're like, where do I start?
I tell them to start anywhere. I say, try a minute of just being mindful. Okay. So just try a minute, put a timer on. I usually turn to breath because I feel like it's the easiest. So I'll teach them that double inhale, single exhale, or I'll ask them to do a square breath where you're breathing in for 4, holding for 4, exhaling for 4. And by the time you do that 10 times, a minute or 2 has passed. And then just notice. I always ask people to notice how they feel. Notice how you feel when you start. Do a little scan through your body. When you finish, do a scan. What's changed? And I think the more that we like see or feel the results, the more likely you are to come back. So then I ask them to journal after, and just that way, when you are like, I don't want to do this, you can look back and be like, oh yeah, I felt like this and this. Okay, I can sit for 2 minutes. And then I ask them to like increase time as they go. And whatever it is that they're doing, walking, petting a dog, listening to music.
Yeah.
Doing a guided meditation.
Yeah, I was going to say there's so many on YouTube and different apps and stuff for that. Guided meditation has helped me a lot.
Yes.
I was hoping to find more walking meditations because I have a hard time. I have ADHD, so it's very hard for me to sit still. Right. And it's also very hard for me to find time. Yeah. where it's quiet and I'm alone. So yeah. I thought walking, okay, this is something I can do. I'm breathing already. Yeah. Like I'm, there should be more of that.
We're going to bring you to a breathwork circle, because that's what I think is the people who have a super hard time. I'm like, forget trying to do nothing or even trying to be still. Come do breathwork, because it gives your brain something to do. And then you drop into that meditative state.
Yeah. That's why I love yoga so much.
Yeah. I think I'm getting really personal now, but
we love it. We're here for it.
Do it.
But I mean, I've been really triggered by certain breathwork techniques.
Yeah.
One of them in particular was something that we do now at the end of my yoga practice. And it's, gosh, I can't even think of the name right now on the spot that the camera's looking at me, but it sounded like the death rattle. And my dad, made that sound with his breath as he was dying. And so the very first time I was in a yoga class, and that happened, like I literally couldn't breathe anymore.
Absolutely.
So what I've learned since then is sometimes it has made me uncomfortable even since then, even though I've worked through it and I've been able to do, it's couple body breathing.
Yeah.
So it's very, it's harsh because you feel like you're suffocating in a room full of people like breathing and reminding you of this moment. But I realized that the more that I leaned into it and the more that I did it, I broke through places where I was stuck with my father's passing. And it made me realize, like, okay, I am alive. This breath in me is the sign and the reminder that I am alive, that my dad would want me to be here and fully breathing. And it's helped me so much, like expand, just how I live and think and go about life. And something that would have been a trauma, like I turned it into something else through just continuing with it. So like there are probably other things that are scary for people. So what's the advice that you give them if that's the case for them?
Thank you for sharing that story.
You're welcome.
That is very personal. And I got into breathwork after my dad passed away from COPD, and all the breathing things, it always kind of brings something up for me, because I'm like, if I could have just taught him some of these things, maybe it would have been different. Yeah. But the thing about triggers, so when we have a trigger, it's really an opportunity for us to explore. And there's nothing wrong if we're triggered, and it is something to lean into more than back away from.
Right.
So that's always my advice. Like, if you have somebody that's triggering you in your life, or you have something that's triggering you, what are you asking to look at? Because like in that situation, it probably was dealing a little bit more with your dad's passing.
Yeah. Yeah.
And like letting yourself feel those feelings of like, oh my gosh. and then also honoring that you are alive, right? So when we have a trigger, whatever it is, it's a time to really look inside and ask yourself, like, why? Why am I being triggered here? And traumas are hard, but we can use them as growth.
Yeah.
Well, trauma imprints on the body, right? So it gets stored in your nervous system, gets stored in your brain, and so
In your joints too,
Everywhere.
like joints,
Yeah.
muscles, organs.
and I agree with you. So anytime you can work through something and identify it, and it's like aversion therapy to a certain extent, like you can kind of retrain your body to have a different response to the trigger.
Yeah. So somatic release is a lot of like what you're kind of talking about here, because when stuff gets stored inside of our bodies, talk therapy is great. However, it doesn't get rid of that trauma. It doesn't get rid of the pattern, the energy that's stuck within the body. So finding a way to physically release it, one, you have to feel it, and then you let it go. And the body's just trying to communicate with us.
Yeah.
I mean, the like aches and pains that are within us, it's like, it's not mad at you. It's not that you did something wrong. It's like, hey, pay attention.
Yeah.
And different parts of the body mean different things, which are really, I just think it's so cool when we get to know, like, oh, okay, my shoulders are really heavy. I'm taking on so much crap that's not mine. I should probably just like let go of some of that responsibility and ask for help when I need it.
Well, one of the things that I have found so like profoundly helpful from yoga is the release of like, sometimes I'll say to people like, the yoga wasn't good until you cried, like on your mat, like, right?
Absolutely.
And people are like, you cry in yoga? I'm like, yes, if the yoga was good enough, you cry. Like,
absolutely. It's my running joke with like my clients, my yoga classes, my breathwork classes, anyone who knows me, I'm like, well, if I didn't make you cry, then I haven't done my job.
Right. That's right. Yeah. And sometimes you don't, right? Like sometimes it's just, but you have so many different breakthroughs, and it's just the opportunity to like move what you're saying, moving energy through your body. Like there are so many things. What's the ultimate goal though? Like the ultimate goal is to have all your chakras open and to like have no things stored, like just be open and receptive, right? Is that the goal?
Yeah. I mean, here's the thing. The goal is, yes, you want to have your chakras balanced, have it be open, because then you can, find clarity, feel light in life, experience life fully. So you're not like thinking in your head about what's next, what happened. You can just find joy and love and peace no matter what's happening to you, right? But I am going to say that we're here for a human experience, and maintaining that is probably, you're going to have things that bring you back down, and then you'll come back up. And I think the real goal is to be able to know yourself well enough to go like, oh, hey, I'm a little bit off. I need to do something to get myself back in check, and being able to check in and be like, okay, I need grounding. I should go stand outside. I need movement. I'm going to go to a yoga class. I need clarity. I'm going to sit and meditate, and like just understanding what the body needs. I feel heavy in my shoulders. I'm going to shake. So that's really the ultimate goal. Yes, we want to be like balanced, aligned, lit up like a, Christmas tree. And like just bringing joy wherever we go. But ultimately life is going to happen and change. So to me, the goal is empowerment and letting yourself know how you can shift and change.
What are some of the chakras? Can you like line up the chakras for us and explain those to people who don't understand chakras?
Okay. So, so your chakras are these wheels of energy within your body. There's 7 main ones. I'll tell you those. So you have your root chakra, which sits at the base of your spine. And this is about your sense of security, stability, your finances, family fun, generational. Then you move up to your sacral chakra, which sits just below your belly button. And this is your creativity, your joy, sexuality, all the like pleasures and fun in life. And then you have your solar plexus, which sits at your solar plexus, right where your rib cage meets. And this is about your personal power. It's how we show up in the world, like how we put ourselves out there, but it also has your ego and your inner child. So it's a loaded one.
It's a complicated spot.
There's a lot of things going on there. And then you have your heart chakra, which sits in your chest. This is the one that's easiest for people to feel. So I always like to talk about this with people who don't, they're like, what are chakras? If you think about heartbreak, or you think about when you love somebody, you feel that burst. That's your heart chakra being open. And when you have grief and it feels like tight, that's your heart chakra kind of closing in. And then you have your throat, which is how we speak, of course, and communicate and share our truth with the world. And then you have your third eye, which is your intuition. So understanding like the quiet voice that tells you little pushes to go certain ways. And then you have your crown chakra, which is on the top of your head, which is your connection with divinity, with your higher self, and all the things that we can't see.
So I think you mentioned human design before we got started. Have you ever done a human design quiz? So I'm a manifesting generator.
Oh, me too.
Oh, you are?
That makes a lot of sense that you're doing this.
It does. So human design kind of bases like the fabric of when you were born, similar to astrology, but it's very specific to the time and place in which you were born.
Interesting. Okay.
And what other like elements of it?
Yeah, I kind of like talk about it as like astrology and chakras had a baby, and because it's like goes into different, like it'll go into your energy centers, and you have ones that are open and ones that are closed. So you might, like, I have a really easy time seeing other people's views because something is open.
Right.
I'm not a human design reader. I have a wonderful woman who is, if you ever need one, but and so, but somebody who that's closed, they're going to have a harder time like seeing other people's points of view. But there's 4 different main types, and it will kind of determine how you show up in the world, or if life feels easy or really difficult if you're living in that.
Yeah.
Interesting.
But it kind of like guides you on what is closed and what needs work.
Yes.
So I think one of them that I had trouble with was my throat chakra, which funnily enough, I wake up with like a frog in my throat every morning. But for the longest time, I couldn't speak up. I couldn't speak up and say what I wanted. And when I finally broke through that, I was like, oh, I need boundaries. I need to speak up. Like, these are the things that you recognize. And then you're like, it was the throat chakra that whole time that I was needing work with. So,
yeah. Well, and it's funny because different chakras can be, your chakras are either open, they're balanced, or they might be like leaking energy.
okay.
They might be blocked of energy. So like if you had a hard time speaking up, your throat chakra is blocked. If you can never stop talking, your throat chakra is leaking. It's a little too much.
Like that.
Yeah, I'm like, we all laugh because we know somebody. They're like, okay, I was okay.
Yeah.
I'm gonna talk there.
Yeah.
That's fine. But there are ways to bring it into balance, and we all kind of have like ones that we have to work on. And human design is a really great tool to know. Okay, I have a harder time. Like I can tend to be an overworker and not find the joy. I'm like, okay, let's go. So I have to work on my sacral chakra sometimes to just let that joy in and have more fun.
That sounds familiar.
Yeah.
I can relate to that.
Small admissions we're making. You're like, yeah.
Yep.
So you were telling us that you're going to do a retreat.
Yes. So I have done a retreat the past 2 years. So I have a podcast with my partner, Brooke Welsh. It's called Balance Chaos. We just talk about all of this stuff for like an hour on end, really in depth. So if you were piqued your interest in something, we've got lots and lots of episodes. We're on a little break right now because she's about to have a baby, which is very exciting. Yeah. And this fall, we are hosting our 3rd Balance Chaos retreat in Sedona. It's going to be mid-October. I know the dates, but I'm just can't think of them right now.
Yeah.
And it's like a wellness retreat. So there's going to be yoga, there's going to be breath work, there's going to be, energy readings that we'll do for the people that come. And Sedona is just like this magic place anyway. It's like, I just like going there.
Yeah. It's the vortex, right?
Yeah. You can, we always do a vortex tour where you can like sit and really feel the energy of the vortex, which is cool. And we're bringing in a human design reader this year and like healing facials and a bunch of other stuff. So it's really going to be, we're amping it up from the last 2 years. So it's going to be so much fun. So that will be out.
I'll be there.
Awesome.
I'm signing up already.
That sounds amazing. We'll put all the information in the show notes.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Tell us where people can find you.
So you can find me on the gram, on Instagram at Common Total Chaos. You can go to my website, which is KristinRoyseland.com. Go to the blog. And then I'm putting out a blog every week right now. And you can also find me at Vibe Yoga, which is over in Green Valley. I'm a Green Valley girl for life. So it's actually just right up the street from where we're recording this. And I teach on the schedule a lot. Hard classes, gentle classes. I actually do a yin and tarot class where I bring in breath work, intuition, and I usually do a little energy balancing in that one as well.
Vibe yoga I'm going to. Is it hot?
It's hot. We have infrared panels. It's so good.
Ooh, yeah. I'm going. I'm coming to your class.
That's my skin's glowy because I'm under
it's
the
so
infrared.
glowy. I'm like, geez, I had to do so much disport for this, and Kristin's over here like just glowing and perfect.
And maybe a little makeup too, but I'm going to say the infrared panels and breathwork.
Yeah, I'm coming. I'm coming to your studio. Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you guys.